Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Arsenal Pass. Today we have a special video with the doctor himself, Mr. Tariq Patel. He has a Fi deck for us here. Tariq, why don't you give me, first off, your first impressions of Fi and how it's performing in the current metagame?
So Fi is an interesting hero so far. We've been playing a lot of limited since the set first came out, and there's no doubt that he is probably the premier hero in Uprising. The ability to go wide and present large amount of damage is Fi's greatest strength, and we want to kind of take that concept and import it from limited into a constructed metagame. How it's going to do is still to be determined. There's a calling in Utrecht. I probably said that wrong in about a week or so. So that'll be its real first stomping ground. And this is kind of my first take on Fi that you guys can see on
So
screen.
let's talk about the blues first here. We've got 14 blues. What's the idea behind that number specifically? And are there any blues that are important in particular outside of just minnowism?
Right. So the idea is you want roughly one of every four cards in your deck to be blue. So 60 divided by 4 is 30 divided by 2, so it's about 15. So you want about 15 or so blues just so you can draw on average about one blue every four cards. So that's where the number really comes in. The minnowism package kind of alters it a little bit because a belittle, the red counterpack to the minnowism, acts as a pseudo blue. So your count is actually closer to 17 than it is 14. But that's the idea of where that number 14 comes from. You want approximately one every four cards to be blue. And then from there, blue cards or blue pitch cards are primarily used for their resource attributes. So if the time comes where we ever draw more than one blue card in a single turn cycle, we want to make sure that our blue cards maximize the value that they can get. So Brand with the Cinder Claw is extremely good because it turns our generics like Belittle into a Draconic archetype card so that you can continue the combat chain. Minnowism is just it goes along with the Belittle package, and the reason I chose three is because there are times if you only play one that you can draw the minnowism with the belittle, and it's very yucky. And same thing with two. Sometimes you might have to play it. So I like three, and that's what I've been going with. Rise from the Ash is an interesting one. It's almost like a captain's call in that it gets really good value just at face value because it gets the +1 on the front side, and you return a Phoenix Flame later in the game. So, even at face value, it's still a 0 for 2 attack with Go again. So it does quite a bit just by itself. Rising Resentment, again, just a combat chain starter with a very relevant on-hit effect. It saves your resource if your opponent chooses not to block it. And if they do choose to block it, they end up losing the entire card. And then Soulbreed Strike, very generic card. Probably the one I'm looking to swap out if I can think of something better. But for now, it's a blue pitch that blocks 3. That is also a 0 for 2. So that's a little bit about the blues for now.
Sure. So we are looking at the sort of main deck here. Let's get into it with the Phoenix Flames. We have two Phoenix Flames main deck, and then we have what I, not counting Engulfing Flame Wave, which is kind of over here. We have sort of the Phoenix Flame package, as I would say. What's the idea behind two specifically?
So I look at Phoenix Flame as a card that I only want three in the extremely grindy matchups. The matchups like Oldhim that you know are going to go the distance and you're going to get fatigued because you want to be able to go alternating turn cycles where you can get a Phoenix Flame back from Five's ability, put it in Arsenal, and then the following turn always have two Phoenix Flame for your go wide turns. When you're in the aggressive matchups where the match may not last longer than 4 or 5 turns, you really don't want to be drawing more than one Phoenix Flame if you don't have to. Ideally, you want to draw no Phoenix Flames throughout the course of the game and be able to actually tutor the second one up with Flame Call Awakening. Because at face value, Phoenix Flame is a 0 for 1 with Go again, which is far below rate.
Been telling people that in limited forever. So last card here is just Phoenix. So Phoenix form. Are you playing towards getting max value out of that, or do you find yourself playing it out as a three for go again a lot?
So it depends on the context. If I'm playing the aggro mirror and I have not drawn a Flame Call Awakening yet, I will often just play it as a 0 for 3 head jab kind of effect and kind of move on with my life. If the situation dictates in an aggressive mirror where I've played a Flame Call previously, I will often try and arsenal it and try and set up a two Phoenix Flame Wake turn so that my Phoenix form is a 0 for 5 with Go again. But I'm not trying to force it, which is one of the reasons I'm not running more than one, because they can get a little bit awkward, especially if you only have one Phoenix Flames, because you usually aren't able to go Phoenix Flame first and then Phoenix Form. So it requires a little bit of setup. In the Oldhim matchup specifically, I will try and pitch stack it and try and draw it again in my second cycle so that I can have the full three modes where it's a 0 for 5 with an on hit of draw three cards. And I'll be playing through to that second cycle quite a
Mhm.
bit.
All right, and now getting into kind of what I probably consider to be ethos of the deck here, which is mono head jab to an extent. We do have mounting angers and one engulfing flame wave, but just a lot of zero go again in this deck.
Yeah, so really there's not much to say about this part of the deck. It is really the core bread and butter of the deck. This is the engine that makes the deck run. The deck needs what we call starters. So to start any long combat chain, and the magical number is 3, because that at that point you get your Phoenix Flame back for free, you need a 0 for whatever attack with go again. So everything you see there is essentially the starter of your combat chain. Ideally, you would like to see about one every 4 cards, and as you see there, there's 3, 6, 9, 12 of them. The lava vein doesn't really count because it has to be played second, but we really want to maximize those draconic head jab effects to really start our turn off strong.
Yeah, sweet. And then so just heading over to Spreading Flames, it seems like it's a sort of a core card of the deck. This is one of the biggest cards you're playing around, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So spreading flames is important to get out early because it'll give every kind of attack on the chain a +1 boost. That and its friend Art of War next to it are both the power turns of the deck. When you have a spreading flames or an Art of War, that is when every attack you play becomes that much more threatening, and not just a 0 for 3 with go again. It's really allows every head jab you play to get past the breaking
Hmm.
point.
And the last thing I want to talk about here is the two main deck. Is that all you got? Do you find that this is giving you enough value in most matchups, and are you cutting it in any other particular matchups?
Yeah, so this is a card that I originally was kind of like unsure about, but in Fi specifically, I've actually really, really liked it. There's a lot of decks that actually end up running incidental 2 attack or less cards. Like, for example, every Runeblade plays Rosetta Thorn, right? The Mirror Match plays a lot of like Phoenix Flame, for example, or 0 for 2 head jab effects, etc. So it comes up quite often, and it's essentially a free gain 2 life, draw a card in those situations. And at very worst, it's still a yellow pitch, which means you can use your weapon, Searing Ember Blade, to get in there. So even if you're not blocking with it, it's still a weapon swing. So it's been a very versatile card with very little downside, and the upside is so huge when you actually get to play
Hmm.
it.
Absolutely. Anything else to say about the main deck here before you go ahead and head into the sideboard?
I will say Belittle is amazing. I know there's a big debate going on right now on Twitter on whether or not Belittle minnowism is like the thing to
It's a
be doing.
debate. What the?
And I will say in this deck specifically, it's very good because what it allows you to do is essentially mulligan a 4 red line hand into a blue. Because before, when you had a 4 red line card, you could never really use your weapon. Your turns get kind of clunky. But if you look at 4 cards, one's a belittle, you now get to choose one of your other 3 red cards to functionally become a blue pitch. It's like a blue pitch plus one resource. So I think it's very important in this deck because it smooths out the mana, and with 3 minnowisms, you're never short on a
Yeah,
target.
very good target off of your Findel Spring Tunic as well. Awesome. So with that, let's go ahead and pull out the sideboard. All right, so here we go. Here is the equipment and the sideboard. Let's start with the equipment first here. I assume it's pretty standard to pretty much play the Findel Spring Tunic, the Mask of Momentum Stubby Hammers, and Snapdragon Scalers. Talk to me about when you're playing Tiger Stripe Shuko.
So Shuko is a card that I love to play in the control grindy matchups like Oldhim. Just the ability to, like I was talking about before with your Phoenix Flames, you bring one back, you set one in Arsenal. Every other turn, you essentially get a free damage out of your Phoenix Flames. Plus, incidentally, you do end up drawing, multiple Phoenix Flames, or, um, 0 for 2s with the lava burst effect, and Shuko can oftentimes just kind of randomly trigger by itself. So it's a lot of incidental damage that really adds up over a 20 plus turn game, and that's where I enjoy it. Specifically, what's missing from this sideboard is Mask of I'm gonna get the name wrong, but the Pouncing
Massive
Lynx, the
bouncing
one that
links, yeah.
masks that when it hits, you go and tutor. And I've been really unimpressed with that card. I know people have touted its prowess, especially in the aggro matchups, but I think it's very difficult uh, to be playing almost no armor in an aggro mirror, right? Because if you're playing Mask of the Lynx and then you're playing Stubby Hammers, you're playing Snapdragon Scalers, the only equipment you'll ever block with is your Tunic, which only happens at the very last turn. So you're basically going into the aggro mirrors with down one life, and I don't think the incidental damage you get off the mask plus Stubby's combination makes up with it. Your opponents can kind of just block out that turn cycle, take a little bit of chip damage, and you've reset the game, and now you've kind of blown your entire equipment suite with no overall advantage. So just wanted to make that comment there, as I know it's the new like kind of hot tech that people like to play and talk
So
about
heading
right
into
now.
the AB, we mentioned that this should maybe be a Nolan robe. Just triple Nolan here, I guess. Do you think that you would play 3 pieces of Nolan against something like Kano or Icelander?
It's more just for Icelander, mostly. Blue Insidious chill. There's often times where if it's hitting, you're going to be required to be pitching 2 additional resources or discard a card anyways. So it gives you the option to kind of play around Insidious chill. I've kind of gone back and forth. I don't know what's correct just yet. I'm always the type of person, even when I played Chen, I'd always have AB3. With your reduced blue counts in this deck, it could be correct to play less, but you are also playing 14 blues, 3 belittles, so it's not an overstretch to say where you might actually just have access to a blue every turn if you so want. So it's something I got to test more. AB2 is probably good enough, and then you can keep kind of the tunic in if need be, and you just go with the boots and the arm piece null rune. But that's something I'm still testing, and it's mostly theory meets empiric testing, and I'll figure that out later down the
Yeah,
road.
and I'd probably weigh in with, you could always just consider cutting all the AB. What's the worst that could happen? So we have the one Phoenix Flame here. I'm assuming this is for Oldhim. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, for Oldhim or any kind of deck that you think is going to fatigue you. So if you play against a Bravo player even and you know that they're very defensive oriented, it might be correct to bring it in.
Thaws, is this for both Icelander and Prism?
Uh, Icelander, I actually don't bring it in against Prism because I think the matchup is good enough
Mm-hmm.
already. I just have the 3 Command and Conquers to pop it, and I just race them and then I hit. It's very similar to how the Starvo matchup played out because you're so able to consistently present 9 damage and then you just get your Phoenix back and pop an aura that is actually threatening at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
combat chain. So I don't actually think it's needed for
Yep.
Prism, but I do actually bring it in against
Okay.
Lexi occasionally because they can play hypothermia and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. So
Yeah, and I assume Jeremiah is a little bit too much of a buy to be bringing these in, right? Yeah, for sure.
yes.
What about these Command and Conquers?
Command and Conquer, really just Prism and Lexi is the only reason they're there. I know some people like to play it in the aggro mirror, but what often happens is that towards the latter half of the game, you're really just playing 4 cards against 4 cards. So you don't really your opponent never really has an arsenal to pop anyway. So it just ends up being a vanilla 2 for 6. So I don't actually like it in the aggressive
All
mirrors.
right, and Oasis Respite?
So that is my anti-Kano
Anti-Kano. Really
technology.
hating on Kano
Um,
here.
I mean, yeah. After playing Blitz, I think everybody kind of realized who tested Oldhim how good Steadfast is against Kano. So an Oasis Respite plus AB2 is functionally a Steadfast, and 6 is the magical number against the big Aether Wildfire turns. So, I always pack, Kano package or a Kano Hay package. But that isn't to say that Kano won't be a real deck. I know a lot of people, the first thing when they hedge against something is they hedge away from playing against Kano, and it's probably smart. You're even if there's like 10% Kano in the room, you're still not likely to play it. So I could see myself cutting down maybe some number of Oasis respites, but for now they're there because I have the room
Yeah.
essentially. I don't have more pressing cards that I want to fit right
What
now.
about the final? That all you got?
So that all you got comes in the mirror match. It comes in against Runeblade. Anything that I know has a guaranteed 2 power attack in it, I'll definitely bring it in. And Rosetta Thorn definitely fits that bill, so that's where it comes in.
Awesome. So any final closing thoughts on the deck before we close it out?
I've liked it so far. I will say in testing, it's still on my working pile. I hear mumblings of people thinking the deck is absolutely insane. So I'm going to continue working on it. I'm going to continue tweaking and iterating it and see how good I can get it. But I think the one of the exciting things about the newest decks in the format, the newest heroes, is that they're completely unexplored. So we might have something like, Briar when Tales of Aria came out, and just or Starvo even with Everfest, where there is a new hero and we just haven't figured out the proper way to build it yet. So I think that's super exciting to me, and I'm going to continue kind of tweaking with this and seeing what I can come up with.
Awesome. Well, we hope you all enjoyed this video with Tariq on his Fi deck. He is going to be doing an additional piece for us on the Arsenal Pass Patreon. So a little bit of a deck tech and deck guide, helping you sideboard and giving you all the tips you need to pick it up and maybe crush a upcoming Road to Nationals, or who knows, the Pro Tour. But anyway, Tariq, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you all next time.